Hello, everyone. I'm Mary Chow with the record, NorthJersey.com. It's been a tumultuous year when it comes to violence against Asian Americans. More than 6,600 reports of violent acts against Asians have been recorded since March of 2020 to March of 2021. We've all seen uncomfortable images of Asians being attacked brutally, as well as images of the Atlanta shooting where 8 people were killed, 6 of them Asian women. The outrage against hate against Asian Americans has sparked a movement. Here in North Jersey, more than a dozen rallies have been held throughout the area. Joining us today are 2 of the organizers of the newly founded Bergen County Diversity Coalition, Manu Singh of Leonia and Cecelia Chan of Tenafly. Welcome.
Thank you, Mary,
for
having us.
Congratulations on a very successful diversity rally this past Sunday. Can you tell us why it was important to have this unity rally this May?
Go ahead, Cecelia.
Well, I think Congressman Andy Kim really spoke to it in his speech at the rallies. There is definite, of course, every single May is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, but there is a feeling of particular urgency this year of all years because of what has been happening with the rise of anti-Asian hate and hate harassment and hate crimes across the country, partly because, stemming from relation to the pandemic and the use of hate language from our leaders from the top down, but also, punctuated by the shootings in Atlanta. So that there is a real, true feeling of urgency this year of all years. And I think we just wanted to get out and show the larger community just what was happening. I think for a long time, many in the Asian American community have felt like they didn't have a voice. They felt silent. And, even before the shootings, there have been countless, at some point it felt like daily reports of attacks against Asian Americans, and particularly our most vulnerable elders. And it just was not getting the media attention. So we really wanted to highlight that.
And Manu, your thoughts as you are one of the organizers of the big rally on Sunday?
Yes, and one of the things we wanted to highlight was this is just not about the API community. Minorities, we as minorities need to come together, be unified in what we are looking for in terms of equality, equity. And that was another point for, yes, we're in the forefront of the brunt of the pain that we're facing right now, but this is about all of us coming together and asking for equity and recognition and basically being heard.
Cecelia, you are one of the 2 organizers of the very first rally in Tenafly the weekend after the Atlanta shootings that drew over 800 people. 2 months later, how is the movement going in your opinion, and what is happening with the Stop Asian Hate movement here in North Jersey?
Well, after it was the rally in New Jersey in Tenafly was a little bit whirlwind. I think, we had literally 3 days to plan it. And the way that it came together was, exceeded our expectations. And I think for all of us involved, we really had to take a step back after that moment and just regroup and think about what our plans were for moving forward. And we've really tried to focus on a unified message, which is increasing representation at our local and county levels, rising up to the state level, and then also pushing for education reform. I think I've been trying to reach out to some groups. There's a great group doing education-related work called Make Us Visible New Jersey that is pushing for the inclusion of Asian American Pacific Islander history in our curriculum. And I believe that New Jersey State Senator Vin Gopal is introducing legislation to include AAPI history in our New Jersey K-12 curriculums. And so that's really heartening because, personally, I've been working and pushing, and Manu has as well, on the local borough levels. And, we've heard from people across Bergen County and their own municipalities, and it's slow going. People have limited success, and I think what the message that we're getting is that it really has to come from the top down at the state level.
And we just saw some statistics on the diversity of Bergen County. In Bergen County, 17% of the population identifies as Asian, and some of the boroughs, such as Fort Lee and Leonia, the population of Asian Americans stands at more than 40%. With that in mind, I know, Manu, you are trying to recruit candidates of color for representation. How is that going, Manu? And what other changes are you trying to implement to reflect the diversity of Bergen County? Manu?
Oh, I think Manu might be having some issues with her sound.
Would you like to answer that?
Sure.
Knowing, and you live in Tenafly, you see how diverse Bergen County is. What are some of the changes you are trying to implement with this movement when it comes to representation and reflecting the diversity of Bergen County and in the town that you live in?
Well, again, I mean, it's not, of course, there isn't one single approach to it. I think we're trying to focus on two fronts, which is increasing the representation at the elected level. Congressman Kim, I think, just went public with his In Our Hearts Political Action Committee, which is focused on recruiting and training AAPI and other people of color interested in becoming elected officials. I have to say, even if you think that running for political office isn't for you, get out there, volunteer your time, and get a seat at the table and a voice in the decisions that are being made. I'm the co-president of our local PTA, we call it the HSA Homeschool Association, and part of the reason that I think that we were so successful is that I was able to push through publicity for our vigil here in Tenafly because of that position. And of course, I cleared it with our HSA, but the other HSAs at the 5 other schools in our town, didn't push that message through until, they were urged by their own community members. And even that little difference, I think, just shows that representation matters at all levels. And the second part is we have to get out the vote. We comprise 17% of the county, but that doesn't count for anything on the electoral level unless you actually get out and vote. I think Andy Kim spoke about it in his article with you. Vingopal has also mentioned it's just there is a hesitancy. I don't think every single person, if we had every single Asian American registered to vote and they actually voted, and they voted often, they voted at their local BOE elections, we would have a much stronger voice together.
Right. And what are the goals of the newly formed Bergen County Diversity Coalition?
Well, I think, again, it boils down to representation. We're trying to push for more representation at our local town levels, at the county levels, and hopefully at the state level. Personally, I'm hoping to try to run somebody, not myself, but I'm hoping to run somebody of a person of color for our local BOE elections coming up. And Manu can also speak to her efforts. I think following, she can probably go into more detail, but I think following an incident that Leonia had, here she is in time. She in Leonia, they banded together, and they were actually, Manu, I was just telling them about your efforts to band together, and you pushed two candidates of color to the local board of, the BOE.
Right, I apologize.
Manu, can you talk about that?
Yes, again, apologies for the technical issues. As Cecelia was saying, one of the things that we've seen is general reticence in the community to either speak up, actively participate. Voting also remains an issue. And I would say the main goal of the Diversity Coalition, outside of education reform and curriculum reform, is to drive grassroots level effort at participation, both in civic engagement, as well as get the right candidates to support. We will support them and make sure they're the voice, because we firmly believe that if you want your voice heard, you need a seat at the table. And the seat at the table is only going to come if you're going to raise our hands and work towards that. To the point Cecelia was mentioning earlier, in Leonia, I started the Leonia Diversity Coalition. Again, a ragtag group of mothers, housewives, husbands, brothers. We all sort of came together and felt very strongly that our voices needed to be part of the discussion. We needed a seat at the table, frankly, with the Board of Education. And last summer, with the pandemic, we were severely hindered in terms of what we could do. But we banded together, came together. We had a series. We identified 2 candidates who were, we had a Latina, an educator from background, and we had a Korean gentleman. Again, deep roots in the community, deep understanding of the changes needed, both parents with kids in the school system. And we rallied for them. Group of moms did the marketing. We hosted a ton of online Zoom sessions, but we now have a blueprint. We've seen that when you activate this community and sort of show them the road to what could be achieved, how they do come together. And our intention is to use that blueprint and apply across the board. Again, it's important to have a seat at the table, get our voices heard. And we no longer want to be the quiet, unheard, lacking visibility group anymore.
Being that the coalition is new, are there hiccups along the way as you're learning? And what about fundraising? How are you dealing with the all-important money issue?
So far, what we've done is we've relied on, again, grassroots level support for individual contributions, and have done really well. And for this particular event, we had significant support from KAANJ. They provided substantive monetary support. So fundraising is going to be an ongoing effort by the team. As far as growing pains, they're always growing pains for every organization, as you can imagine. But in our case, I am pleasantly surprised how quickly we all came together. I knew Cecelia through to the gym where I used to go. And it was such a quick, we posted on Facebook, found each other on Facebook. We quickly pinged her and said, hey, want to plan a larger event? Yes, I'm in. She reached out to her network. We reached out to our network. So I have to say, I'm pleasantly surprised. Despite whatever friction we may face down the road, it seems like there are a lot of people who are motivated. There are a lot of mothers and fathers, especially, and brothers and sisters who've seen this happen to their parents, who are very motivated to sort of come together. And if there are any hiccups, we have no fear of ironing them out rather quickly.
Okay, you talked about people who are motivated. How can people help the cause against Asian hate here in North Jersey?
I mean, there are several things we are intending to do. One is going to be have a bystander, and again, we're going to partner with an organization around this. One of the things is going to be a bystander education. You don't need to be quiet. You don't need to be silent. How do you actively mitigate if there is a incident happening before you? There are lots of ways to partner with us in terms of you can donate your time, you can donate your money, you can donate other resources that you may have. Donate your network. That is critical for you. One of the things that we are really focused on is how do we increase our network, the base that we have. Curriculum is going to be another clear focus of what we intend to do. So in many ways, this is going to be a lot of communication, a lot of cooperation and coordination, because we don't want to replicate efforts or duplicate efforts for the organization who are already doing things in this direction, but primarily focus on how do we in Bergen County get a seat at the table.
And Cecelia, your final thoughts on how people can get involved?
I would say even on the smallest step that you can take is just voice your support, show up, tell us that you stand with us. And it's not, we have to recognize collectively that anti-racism is not just the burden of the people who are being targeted. It should also be the burden of all people. I've heard it, multiple times over the past weeks. We can't change the hate that people hold in their hearts, but we as a community can show those who carry such hate that it has no place or acceptance here in Bergen County, in the country overall. It could be as simple as calling out the racist joke that one of your coworkers tells at the water cooler, You can step in if you see something happening on the street, safely, of course. You know, we're planning to host bystander intervention, but in the meanwhile, if you're interested, I Holla Back also has fantastic resources. They have free training for how to be bystander. They call it upstander intervention, and how to do it safely, and how to, you know, best report, record, and, you know, all of that. Just lending your voice of support, it makes such a huge difference.
I would add, Mary, this is not about reinventing the wheel, right? We want to partner with the Sikh Coalition. They have been doing this for a long time. We want to partner with BLM. They've been doing this for a long time. There is a blueprint that exists out there. This is about how do we join forces? And a lot of that is going to come from, you know, getting the RP community activated, motivated. We have, again, as I said, a lot of people are motivated right now. The iron is hot. Now is the time to get them involved. And then also looking at what are the best practices that the other organizations have done that we can duplicate.
Yes, you've talked about unity and the importance of bringing everybody together into this cause. Thank you very much, Cecelia Chan and Manu Singh of the Bergen County Diversity Coalition, talking about the Asian American movement in New Jersey. I'm Mary Chow with the Record, NorthJersey.com. Thank you for joining us.